So great to be here. We love seeing the snow. It just looked beautiful when we landed. You know, it is such an honor to be with you. Here I go. For our very last trip as Vice President and Second Lady of the United States. But it is such an honor to be here with you. You know, we're a military family, just like all of you. Our son is an F-35 Marine aviator. He's married to our daughter-in-law, Sarah, and they're expecting our first grandchild in April. We're very excited. I thought that might get an applause. And our son-in-law, Henry, is an F-18 fighter pilot for the Navy, and he is currently deployed, and our daughter, Charlotte, is here with us. She's his wife. So we are a Blue Star family, just like your families. And we are so proud of Henry and Michael and their spouses, but we are also so proud of each and every one of you. And we're so grateful for your service and your sacrifice. You know, we're learning a lot more now that our kids are in the military, what a huge sacrifice it is. It's a huge sacrifice for our service members, but it's also a huge sacrifice for your spouses and your children. We know that they serve too, and so we want you to thank your spouses and your children, your parents, your siblings, from us. Let them know that we are thankful for their sacrifice. So from one Blue Star family to another, thank you. I've had the privilege over the last 4 years to choose what initiative I wanted to champion, and I chose military spouses because we know that they serve too. And so as you leave today, please make sure, now this isn't the end, okay? But as you leave today, please be sure that you take one of the blue boxes that has a bracelet for your spouse. And it has the seal with my signature and a star and a flag, so that they will know when they wear it how grateful I am and how grateful we are for their service. But there's somebody else who's been fighting to stand for our military and our military families for the last 4 years. And each one of you are near and dear to his heart. And this is where he wanted to be for his final speech as Vice President of the United States. So I give you Vice President Mike Pence.
Well, hello, Fort Drum. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, General Brett Funk, all the members of the Armed Forces of the United States who are gathered here, U.S. Army strong. Thanks for the warm welcome. It is great to be back at the backbone of U.S. Army readiness, the home of Mountain Tough, the soldiers of the 10th Mountain Division. You know, for more than 100 years, the North Country has been the training ground for America's soldiers. Today, the men and women of the 10th Mountain Division train here, deploy here, and climb to glory. So give yourselves a round of applause. America is proud of the 10th Mountain. And while you're at it, would you join me in showing your appreciation for someone who has been so dedicated these last 4 years to military families and spouses? She's literally traveled the world, encouraging those who stand alongside all the men and women who serve. And as you just heard, she's a Marine Corps mom, my wife of 35 years, but the best second lady the United States has ever had. Would you join me in thanking Karen Pence for all she has done for America these last 4 years? I'm so proud of her. Isn't she great? You know, I'm here to deliver a very simple message to each and every one of you on behalf of your Commander-in-Chief and every American. Thank you for your service. And to the 1st Brigade Combat Team, welcome home. You know, after traveling across this country over the past 4 years, I can assure all of you in uniform, the American people are more grateful for your service than you will ever know. I hear about it all the time. You come from the rest of us, but the people of this country know you're the best of us, and we're grateful. Not only to those of you who wear the uniform, but we're grateful to those who serve alongside. So many of you serve every day as a family while you train, while you deploy. It's your wives, your husbands, and the parents who keep the home fires burning. And as you just heard from my wife, Karen, we know what we're talking about. We have 2 married active duty military personnel in our immediate family, and we couldn't be more proud. So while we give a rousing round of applause to the 10th, why don't you get on your feet and show how much we appreciate all the family members who stand by you who serve. Let's hear it for the spouses and the kids and the parents who make it all work. You know, as I look out at all of you gathered here, it really is remarkable to think of the countless American heroes who stood where we're all standing today. Warriors who've come here, trained here, and deployed from here to virtually every corner of the world. Since 9/11, the 10th Mountain has been the most deployed division of the U.S. Army, with thousands deployed every day. 10th Mountain Brigades have served a combined 46 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. The first conventional units to deploy to Afghanistan after 9/11 came from right here at Fort Drum. The 2nd Brigade Combat Team and the 10th Sustainment Brigade are deployed in Afghanistan even as we speak. And if they're looking on from afar, we say thank you for your service. We are proud of you all. In fact, it may well be true in the days ahead that members of the 10th Mountain Division could be among the last conventional units, should the day come that the war in Afghanistan finally comes to an end. Your mission in Afghanistan has been vital to the security of the American people. This year will mark 20 years since the forces of radical Islamic terror plotted and perpetrated the deadliest attack on the American homeland and the history of our country. From the safe haven of Afghanistan, the terrorists of al-Qaeda struck the United States on September 11th, 2001. I was a new member of Congress then, had just arrived that year, representing the state of Indiana. And I'll never forget where I was. Just off Capitol Hill when I heard that the towers were struck in New York City. Or the moment when I walked out of that office building across from the U.S. Capitol and saw what was a clear blue sky over Washington, D.C., literally filled with billows of mud brown and black smoke billowing out of the Pentagon. It's a sight I'll never forget. Later that day, I was able to slip back across the Potomac River to go to the little house Karen and I had rented with our children as my service began in Washington, D.C. While there was work to be done on Capitol Hill, we thought it was important that we gathered with our kids, young children at the time. We sat around the kitchen table to tell them what happened, to reassure them, and to pray. But I'll never forget the moment that I was walking out of the kitchen, and my daughter Audrey, who was just 7 years of age, followed me out the door. And she said, "Dad, I have a question." And I looked down at her and I said, "Audrey, I have to go. I have things I need to do." And she said, "No, Daddy, I have a question." And I said, "I really have to go." And she stamped her feet and said, "Daddy, I have a question." And I looked at her and I said, like a sensitive father that I was, "What?" And she looked up at me with those big brown eyes, 7 years of age. And she said, "Daddy, if we have to make a war, do you have to go?" I dropped down on one knee and I threw my arms around her because I suddenly knew where her little heart and mind was at. And I hugged her and I told her, "Daddy's too old." But I tell that story because there's not a day gone by in 20 years that I haven't thought of all of you who answered that question differently, to your families, to your loved ones. A generation of heroes, you all are, who stepped forward and took the fight to our enemies on their soil. There's never been a day gone by that I and every American hasn't been grateful to the 10th Mountain Division and every American hero in uniform. Thank you all. From this very fort, selfless patriots like those of you gathered here today who stepped forward after that day have been at the heart of the war on terror. And it's because of you. It's because of you that we reach the 19th anniversary of that terrible day. Just last year, having had no major terrorist attack on American soil since. You took the fight to the enemy in the field, and you've given the Afghan people the hope of freedom, a chance to determine their own destiny, to chart a better future. And today, Afghans are in peace negotiations. I'm proud to report with gratitude to the 10th Mountain Division, not a single American combat casualty has occurred in Afghanistan since February of last year. And our troops have been coming home. The 10th Mountain Division did its job, and I know you'll continue to do just that every single day until the last American soldier comes home. You know, many people wonder all their lives if they've made a difference. But you'll never have that problem. The truth is, the armed forces of the United States are the greatest force for good in the history of the world. And you chose to be a part of that force. You chose to do your part in our time to defend freedom and ensure the survival of liberty in this generation and the next. You know, the Bible says of people like you, you did not love your lives so much as to shrink from this calling. And for that, you have the respect and the support of the American people. As evidence, from the first day of our administration, we've worked with members of Congress in both parties to make the strongest fighting force in history stronger still. 4 years ago, we inherited a military that had been hollowed out by devastating budget cuts. Our troops hadn't seen a significant pay raise in nearly a decade, and there were reports that readiness was even being impacted with a lack of equipment and supplies. Our NATO allies weren't meeting the basic commitments they'd made to our common defense. And in the Middle East, Iran was resurgent, and the terrorist organization ISIS controlled a landmass larger than Pennsylvania. But under the leadership of President Donald Trump, we've rebuilt our military. We've restored the arsenal of democracy and enacted the largest increases in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. And with the support of our allies in Congress, we're once again giving our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guard, and Guardians the resources and the support that you need to accomplish your mission and defend this nation. And we also provided the largest pay increase in the last 10 years, and you deserve every penny. Now, let me say, none of that would have been possible without the strong support of leaders in the Congress of the United States. And here at Fort Drum, it's important for me to tell you, none of that would have been possible without the strong support of Congresswoman Elise Stefanik on the Armed Services Committee of the House of Representatives. Would you join me in thanking Congresswoman Stefanik for her strong support for Fort Drum and our armed forces? Our military is now better equipped, better supplied, better trained than ever before. We've upgraded our tanks, our artillery, our rocket systems. We've bolstered our fleet of attack helicopters and fighter planes. And with that strong commitment to our national defense and a willingness to use American power to advance American interests, our allies have stepped up as never before. Since 2016, our NATO allies have increased their contribution to our common defense by more than $130 billion. History teaches that weakness arouses evil. And our administration has always understood that if you want peace, you prepare for war. Peace requires two things: a strong national defense and a willingness to act to defend America's vital national interests. And I'm proud to report, with just a few days left in our administration, our administration is the first administration in decades that did not get America into a new war. That is peace through strength. And with that strength and with the valor of the 10th Mountain and our armed forces around the world, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. More than a year ago, our armed forces captured the last inch of territory controlled by ISIS, and the 10th Mountain was in the fight from early on. U.S. forces crushed the caliphate and took down their leader without one American casualty. And during these past 4 years, we've stood up to the leading state sponsor of terror as well. Withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, we've strengthened our alliances in the region and isolated Iran as never before. And when the most dangerous terrorist on the planet threatened to do harm to American forces, we acted, and Iran's top general, Qasem Soleimani, is gone. Thanks to American leadership and the courage and valor of our armed forces, a more peaceful Middle East is within our sights. Peace negotiations have resumed this month in Doha, Qatar, between the Afghan government and the Taliban. And for the first time in 26 years, 4 Arab countries have recognized Israel's right to exist. So whether it be in the global war on terror or manning the ramparts of freedom in Europe, men and women of the United States Army have been at the tip of the spear, and you always will be. Your readiness, staying Army strong, is more important than ever before. The 10th Mountain Division in particular will be the vanguard in the years ahead to ensure that no nation will ever again become a safe haven for evil that could threaten our people or the wider world. We're all counting on you because we know we can. So on behalf of your Commander-in-Chief, let me offer you this admonition. In these challenging times across the wider world, be vigilant. Mind your mission. Respect the unified chain of command. Keep taking care of each other. And never doubt that every decision you make matters to the defense of our nation and our vital national interests abroad. Give America your best every day in the very best tradition of the 10th Mountain Division. And as you stand your post, I want you to know the American people are behind you 100%. You know, I'm always humbled to stand before men and women like all of you. Because while my dad was a combat veteran, U.S. Army, he saw action in the Korean War. And while our son and our son-in-law are serving in the military today, my life didn't take me into the uniform of the United States. And so it's deeply humbling to stand before people like you. But maybe it's altogether fitting that you hear from an American like me. Not so much as your vice president, but just as a grateful citizen, to say the words that you should hear now and for the rest of your lives. Thank you for your service. To the men and women of the 10th Mountain Division here at Fort Drum, I assure you, you are the strength and the pride of the American people. America is the freest and strongest nation in the history of the world. And you secure that freedom and you are that strength. You step forward in a calling where you decided to count our lives as more important than your own. For just like those in generations that have gone before, the day you stepped forward, you knew that the soldier does not bear the sword in vain. And so as I thank all of you here, and all of those members of the 10th Mountain that are deployed overseas at this very hour, let me say to each and every one of you, our nation will never forget or fail to honor those in the 10th Mountain Division who gave their last full measure of devotion. I promise you that. And I want to assure you that the American people understand the risks that you shoulder every day. But know this, you do not bear that burden alone. Wherever you're called to serve, wherever you are deployed, I promise you, you will carry with you the strength and pride of this nation. And you will carry with you the prayers of millions of Americans. Every day, in homes across the land, in the city and on the farm, around dinner tables, at places of worship, or just in quiet moments, I know the American people are praying for you. Each and every one of you. In the words of the psalmist, that no harm would befall you, no disaster would come near your tent, and that as you serve, that His faithfulness would be your shield and your rampart. So thank you for the privilege of being with you today. And as our time in office draws to a close, allow me to thank you for the privilege of serving as your Vice President. It's been the greatest honor of my life. And it's been a special privilege to serve all of you and men and women like you who I've met all over this country and all over the world wearing the uniform of the Armed Forces of the United States. My fellow Americans, we've all been through a lot this past year. But through it all, I've seen the strength and resilience of the American people shine forth. And I see that strength in your faces today. Looking out at all of you and remembering the countless heroes we've met along the way these past 4 years, and remembering the grace of Him that has ever guided the destiny of this nation, I have faith that the day will come when we put these challenging times in the past and emerge stronger and better than ever. We will heal our land. We will renew our strength. And the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come. In this one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So God bless the men and women of the 10th Mountain here and deployed with His protection as you climb for glory. God bless all of those in the armed forces of the United States. And God bless America.